You Booked It, episode 47. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainers 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to be a successful entertainer. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainers. We are here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating and review. And to show our appreciation for your, fingers crossed, 5-star rating and review, I will give you a shout out on an upcoming episode. And now, let's do this. Alrighty, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Eric Jordan Young. Are you ready for this, Eric?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Eric is an accomplished producer, director, choreographer, entertainer, playwright, and songwriter. His credits include television on Law and Order: Criminal Intent and Ugly Betty, Broadway, the 98 original cast of Ragtime, as well as the '09 revival, Chicago, Seussical, and Look of Love. Off-Broadway, the NYSF Public Theater, Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, and national tours include Chicago, Ragtime, Starlight Express, and Dreamgirls. He has also appeared in and been part of many commercials and workshops. Eric appeared in the Las Vegas company of Rock of Ages at the Venetian and Rio Resort, and headlined on the Las Vegas Strip in his original production of Shaken, Vegas Remixed with a Twist at Planet Hollywood. Eric originated the role of Ernie in Vegas the Show and has performed with several symphonies throughout the country, including the Atlanta Symphony and the New York Pops at Carnegie Hall. In April of 2016, Eric had his solo symphonic debut with Celebrating Sammy, the music of Sammy Davis Jr. with the Buffalo Philharmonic. His solo album, Once in a Lifetime, was produced by Enjoy Productions, and his one-man musical, Sammy and Me, is the winner of the Art Voice and Salt Awards. His direction and choreography can be seen on the high seas in Norwegian Cruise Line productions of What the World Needs Now and The Great American Song Factory. Eric also served as the resident director of Baz Las Vegas, and he is currently performing in Cocktail Cabaret at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. Eric is also a proud graduate of Ithaca College. Eric, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, if you will, who you are, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Well, yeah, I started, I had a very strong interest in theater and in the arts when I was younger. And thank goodness I had parents who kind of celebrated the fact that I was interested in being in the school choir and taking gymnastics and doing a lot of different things that kind of made my interest flourish, I guess you could say. But at a very, very early age, I took interest in performance, and since then, I have been very fortunate to have a pretty steady career in the arts, and I'm really grateful for it. So as far as filling in the gaps, I mean, oh wow, it's funny listening to you say my resume and credits and the different things that I've done, because as you were talking, my mind was kind of thinking, did I have I done a lot of those things?
Yeah.
And yes, I have, and that's why I say I've been very fortunate to do some great things in the theater, and as not only as a performer but as a producer, a director, and as a playwright, like you said, and a songwriter too. So I've been very, very fortunate, and I'm just happy that I'm able to be in the industry and to be able to meet good people like you.
Oh, thanks. And you know what? I love that part where I get to read off bios because it's so rare that we actually reflect on what we've done, and we just kind of keep adding things to the list, right? As things happen, but it's fun to reflect on what we've accomplished because I think so often we get caught up in the moment and forget about all those successes that we had in the past.
Yeah, it is true, and it can kind of have a little bit of a backlash in that you forget all of the great things that you've been able to be a part of, and hearing you talk about the different things that I've done, it kind of sent me down a nice little memory lane. So thank you for the good reminders.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, let's move on to our next section here. And look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, I think my favorite quote is look, listen, learn, respond. And that is from my dad.
I love it. And how have you applied that quote in your life and your career?
I use it every day. Actually, it reminds me to take in my surroundings and the space that I'm in by looking, and then by listening. I am always in a position where I can take in information from people and hear what they're saying, and then I am learning from what they say or whatever situation I'm in, and then I am able to have a response. And it's something that I've just used every day since I was little. I have a really great family, and just kind of using that code if I ever get bogged down or if I get overwhelmed or confused or anything like that, it's easy to go back to those four words and give myself the opportunity to get a head start and uh, and take in what it is that I'm trying to achieve. So I use it in my directing, I use it in my acting, I use it in my creation of different things, my writing. Just this past weekend, I performed here in Las Vegas as we're slowly opening up right now out of COVID. We're in phase two, and I opened up a new venue called the Vegas Room, and I sang with pianist Philip Fortenberry. And right before I went on, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Look, listen, learn, respond." And it slows my thinking down, it slows my heart rate down, and it puts me in control of whatever situation I'm walking into. And it keeps me clear and focused, and gives me the chance to, like I said, achieve what goals I want to achieve. So I use it a lot. One other thing that my parents kind of instilled in me is that uh, being in this industry, whenever you have to perform, your nerves can take over. And one of the best things that I can do is just take one thing at a time, one song at a time, one lyric at a time, one breath at a time, one thing at a time. And it just keeps me focused, and I love that I'm able to do that because look, listen, learn, respond is valuable in every situation.
I love that. And I think that is outrageously great advice for anybody listening. I like your quote because it's about absorbing your surroundings and your environment first and not making rash decisions and taking things, like you said, as they come at you, one thing at a time. And I think that pays off massively for any situation in this industry.
Yes, and that's the whole point, is that it gives you the opportunity to take it in and not just get ahead of yourself.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to this section. And Eric, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think you'd agree the entertainment industry is one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries either of us have experienced. And you know as well as I that in order to create and to have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, of course, there's an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are inevitably going to experience. And we're going to have to move forward through them if we want to keep doing this as our careers. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career? And how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Well, I would have to say that I am always challenged to to not have self doubt and not have uh, self deprecation or make myself feel like I am not of value. So that's always a challenge as a performer and as an artist, and a way that I've tried to keep myself focused and not go into those dark places is, by really just trusting myself and knowing that people on the other side, meaning audiences or anybody that I'm auditioning for, or if I'm trying to secure a position or a job or something like that, um, to remember that for the majority, most people are truly on your side and they want you to perform well and they want you to do good work. And you know having that, reminding myself of those things is what really really helps. It's like when you walk into an audition room, sometimes we tend to put the focus all on us, on ourselves, and think about, oh, my voice today, or I'm tired, or I'm not going to execute well, or I'm very nervous because of the people behind the table, or all these different things that we put on ourselves. And we tend to forget that the people that we're trying to impress, or that we're trying to work with or find a way to collaborate with, that they are on our side. And that's always been one of the most challenging things for me in the industry, is just making sure that that I stay focused, and that I don't become self-deprecating.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up and you mentioned that people are for the most part on your side because in this industry with the arts, with creativity and theater, it's such a non-traditional employment situation where you don't sure you have people that are above you per se in the structure of something, someone's paying the pay writing your paycheck and things like this, but it is much more of a collaborative process than your traditional 9 to 5 job. And we're so lucky to be part of an industry that we get to collaborate with everyone that's involved on different projects. And to really remind ourselves that that is what makes this industry so great, that what makes such a fantastic product at the end is that we did collaborate versus some superior person saying, you have to do this and this and this because I said so. It's in the ideal setting, we're all working together to create that amazing thing.
Right, right. It's very, very important to remember that the reason why you want to perform, or that you're trying to create a story and story tell, is that you want to share something. A lot of times, people feel that as entertainers, we are begging for the applause, we are begging for the approval, we are begging for acceptance. But actually, it's the opposite of that. It's, I'm offering something to you that I hope that you enjoy, and that uh, I want people to see that my offerings are coming from my heart and that they're genuine. And I'm not begging for applause. I'm actually trying to make sure that I affect the audience in a way that makes them feel good and brings joy and happiness and hope and maybe some type of level of education. So it's really one of those things that you have to remember that people are on your side, like you said, for the most part, and it is something that can be very, very challenging in an industry where you're putting yourself on the line a lot.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to this next section to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Well, I was in seventh grade, and the announcement for the school musical went up, and it was Peter Pan. And I really wanted to play Peter Pan. I did everything that I could to prepare for the auditions, and I was very, very excited and young, and did my research and listened to the album, the Broadway album, and learned all the music and learned my lines by heart and everything. And then I ended up getting the role of Peter Pan. And that was the moment of validation for me that made me uh, feel like it was something that I would want to do for the rest of my life. I fell in love with the rehearsal process. I fell in love with the collaboration. I fell in love with the pursuit of storytelling and making an audience feel good. And it was just that aha moment for me, or like you say, that spotlight moment. Um,
Yeah.
I was in seventh grade, and I have never looked back from then. I remember while I was doing the show, I remember saying to my parents that I want to major in musical theater. Uh, and at the time, there weren't really many musical theater programs in the country. I think there were maybe 10 to 14 of them. Many people didn't regard musical theater as something that was separate from just the theater department. It was like
Right.
getting an acting major was musical theater. It was all wrapped into one. But once I saw that there was a major in musical theater and I told my family about it, they were very, very supportive. And of course, like, oh gosh, what's going to happen here? Because nobody in my family really performs. So I ended up getting more support from them because on Christmas that year, I came downstairs to the tree, and underneath the tree, there were probably 30 to 40 albums of musical theater. And that
Oh,
started
wow.
my journey on doing the research that I needed to do to try and make this my career. So I got everything from Oklahoma to the Tap Dance Kid to Phantom of the Opera and Annie Get Your Gun and Evita. The list goes on and on. Now, I did say albums because they were albums, and I was able to learn about all of the different artists, Patti LuPone and Dee Hotie, and just all of these different people who were in New York at the time. And I learned about all of them, and I memorized their names, and I memorized these shows, and it was really that year in my life, that seventh grade year, where I was validated by being cast as Peter Pan, and then also validated by my family, and knowing that they believed in me enough that they went out and bought me research material to be able to fortify the rest of my career.
I love that story. Well, let's piggyback on that question and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if those happen to be a part of it, what was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment.
My favorite booked it moment was my very, very first, and I hesitate to say this, but I shouldn't, because it is a true story, but it makes me feel weird to say it. But my very first audition in New York City, I booked. And it was
Amazing.
for a national tour of Dreamgirls. It was a non union national. I had just graduated from Ithaca College in 1993. And at the end of the summer, after I did some uh, summer stop, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who had graduated a year before me. And he said, "You need to get to New York by this date because there are auditions for Dreamgirls national tour." And I had just had my wisdom teeth taken out. And I made the crazy mistake of having all four of them taken out at the same
Oh,
time.
you're like a
um,
chipmunk.
yes, exactly. 3 days after I had my wisdom teeth taken out, I got a terrific drive from my dad to New York City. I lived in Buffalo, New York, so he drove me to New York and dropped me off. The next day, I went to the audition and I had a great time. I was dancing with some people in the room that I had admiration for. The choreographer was a really great person, and I had seen some, Dreamgirls alumni kind of walking around that were going to be involved in the production. So I was just excited to be in New York and auditioning. And I ended up auditioning as a member of the chorus and as a dancer. So I got a call back and I went to the callback and it was a lot of fun. And then they asked me to stay and read. And so I did that. They had me read for the role of Curtis Taylor Jr. And before I knew it, the day was progressing and I was like almost 5 hours into the day. And I was reading with a lot of the ladies that were being looked at to play some of the dreams. So
Wow.
I just thought that I was having maybe a little lucky streak, or something, or maybe they were looking at me as an understudy of Curtis or something like that. But the day ended, and that night I went back home to the place where I was living, and I got a phone call, and it was from the stage manager, and he said, "Well, congratulations, we're really excited for you." And I said, "Oh, that's great. That's amazing. Thank you. But what am I going to be doing?" And he said, "What do you mean? What are you going to be doing?" And I said, "Well, I mean, like, am I in the ensemble? Am I one of
Yeah.
the dancers? Am I, an understudy for some of the roles? Because I think it would be amazing. And, what am I doing?" And he said, No, you booked Curtis Taylor Jr. So,
Wow.
so my book it number one book it moment would have to be that very first audition in New York City, where I booked and was able to go on tour with Dreamgirls.
That that is an amazing story.
While my
Wow.
mouth was still hurting too, because I was,
Of course.
I could hardly sing, let alone, how uncomfortable I was, but somehow it happened and I was able to book that project. So I was very excited.
That's amazing. I love that story, but I also love that as you were talking about it, you said multiple times, I went to this room, we were dancing, I had a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. And I think that is such a massive thing for people to take away from that story that they can apply to their own auditions, because if you're having so much fun, that meant you were relaxed and you were having a good time and really letting your talents and your personality be seen by those people in the room. And I can only imagine that it was that energy and the way you were conducting yourself in that audition that inspired them to delve further and have you read those lines. And it's so cool. I love that. There's so much to be learned from that.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was just excited to be in New York and excited to start my career. And I wasn't thinking that I would book a national tour from my first foot in the door kind of thing, but it
Yeah.
happened, and it was just a wonderful thing. So I toured with that show for almost a year, and it was actually the first time that I came out to Las Vegas was with that tour, and played the Aladdin Theater many years ago. So hey, it was cool.
I love it. Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And of course, we are amidst this global pandemic. We're amidst an outrageous amount of social and racial injustices. And how do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Wow. Well, I mean, what projects am I working? I just did a 2 evening weekend performance here in Las Vegas. We just opened up, and there's this new room called the Vegas Room. It's really, really great. Brent Barrett, who is a musical theater star here in the states, he has been in Vegas for some time as well. He played the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera here at the Venetian many years ago, and he asked me if I would be interested in jumping into the pool for performing in what is now being called a listening room. So it's a very, very small space with like dinner served and cocktails. And it was really, really nice. I had a great time. So I was doing that. And then I'm actually revising a new version of my musical that I did many years ago called Sammy and Me. So I'm working on revisions with my co-writer and my director at the moment. Um, I've been trying to stay sane because it's just a crazy world right now, and
Yeah.
I am looking forward to what happens in terms of story in this industry. I think that a lot of different things and a lot of different perspectives are going to come out in people's writing, and I'm really curious to see what that's going to be about. But as far as the entertainment industry and where it's going to go in the next couple of years, I'm not really sure. I know that it's going to change in a very, very big way. And if there's anything that I've learned over the last, who knows how many years I've been in this industry, it's that it it doesn't really serve anybody to predict what is coming, but being open to opportunity is probably the biggest benefit. So I'm open to all types of opportunities, whether it be TV, film, theater, recordings, or whatever. And I hope that in whatever way the entertainment industry kind of starts to mold and shape and morph whatever it morphs into, I'm just hoping that I can stay aware enough to be able to offer up some type of collaboration or offer up some type of entertainment in that world of what it's going to be. But I really don't know. It's such a bizarre time in this live entertainment world. So we'll see what happens. But I do have hope. So we'll see.
Absolutely, and I love your outlook on that, that you're open to it. Who knows what's gonna happen, but bring it on. Let's see where this takes us. All right, well, let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning round.
Grease lightning.
Yeah. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible. Boom, 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 one after another. Are you ready?
I hope so. Drum roll, please.
Here we go. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Money. Ding.
Ding. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
The best piece of advice that I ever received was from George Hamilton. We went out to dinner, and he was playing Billy Flynn in Chicago on Broadway, and I was his understudy. And he said that I reminded him of a very, very good friend of his. And I said, please don't say it, please don't say it. And at the same time, we said Sammy Davis Jr. And he was like, I miss Sammy very, very much. And you remind me of him. And we sat down and we were talking about that, and there was a candle on the table, and he said, fame is like this candle. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he said, if you get too close to it, it will burn you, but if you just hover around it, it will illuminate you, and it will heat you, and it will make you feel glorified and well provided for. So whenever I see a candle in a little like candle holder on a table in front of me, I do think of George Hamilton, and I think about how fame can either burn you or it can give you light.
I love that. And the third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Taking care of myself first.
Yes. Fourth question. What is the best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast, maybe a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
Oh, wow. This was probably one of the hardest questions just because I am a very research type of person when it comes to working on different projects. So I have so many different things that I look at. But I really do love the New York Times. I love their perspectives on the world. I love their perspectives on the theater. And I guess I would say probably the New York Times. And then I love reading American Theater Magazine. This is a hard question because I'm so information. There's just so many different things that help me. I just try to stay open and make sure that I read as much as I can. I know that doesn't really totally answer your question, but I hope it does in some form.
No, that's perfect. Fantastic. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would I've been very fortunate, and so I wouldn't throw away or forfeit the opportunities that I've had. But one thing I would do is, with respect to others, I would, and respect for myself, I would choose to not put so much pressure on myself in terms of trying to figure out what people want from me. It's not helpful for anyone's career to try and figure out what others need. I think you have to really try and be grounded in yourself and offer up what you are able to, share with confidence. And sometimes that self-doubt thing really creeps in, but I would say stop worrying about, or I would say to myself, don't worry about what other people think so much.
Yeah, so true. I love that. And sometimes it just takes being in the industry long enough to realize that's what you need to do. But hopefully, hearing that for anyone out there really does trigger on a light bulb because it's so important.
Yes, very.
And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in the industry that you'd like to leave with everybody?
Do your research, know thyself, and don't worry about what other people think of you.
Love it.
Which is similar to what I just said, but
Yeah, absolutely. But it's massive advice.
yeah.
Yeah. And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Well, the way I would plug myself is just to say that, I am a very nice person. I like to have fun. I love working with people and I love being a collaborator. You can find me at ericjordanyoung.com, or enjoyprods.com, which is enjoyprods.com. I named my production company Enjoy Productions because my name is EJY, Eric Jordan Young. And
Yeah.
it was something that came to my mom. She was like, oh, you know what? EJY is in the word enjoy. And I had always said enjoy and signed all of my letters and emails to friends over the years with the word enjoy, but never even thought about it. But I would, you can find me on my website. And if you come to Las Vegas, you can look me up and see if I'm performing here in town, and if not, you can also take a look at my work. If you go out on a cruise or something, I work for Norwegian Cruise Line, and I built two shows for them. One is a Burt Bacharach production called The Look of Love, and the other is a show that showcases the artists that were in the Brill Building in the '60s and in New York City on 49th and Broadway. So you can see my work on different ships and different cruise lines. And And then I also tour as an artist. So, check out my website and stay in touch somehow. Cause or you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at Eric Jordan Young. You can find me on Twitter, Eric Jordan Young. So look me up. I'd be happy to share any of my thoughts with anybody who wants to say hello.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And Eric, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for asking me. This was really wonderful.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.